Hey sis, back again. Today I want to talk to you about something that plays a significant role in our lives, a significant role in the blooming process, if you will, and that is the value of true friendship and the importance of discerning those in your circle. One of my favorite songs is kind of an oldie. Uh, but one of my favorite songs used to be a song by a rapper named Rocco that said, "Keep the squares out your circle." I love that song. I know it's a little hood, but if you get to know Dr. Hall long enough, you know that I'm sophisticated, right? Like a little trap music and Jesus, okay? So in this song, essentially what the premise of the song was is that how a lot of times we got a lot of people that are around us, and that these people are essentially frenemies, friends that are their enemies disguising themselves as friends. And so if we're not careful, we'll let these people impact our well-being and our personal growth. And so this is why we've got to be very, very selective about the people that we allow into our personal space. I am one of those people who I love people. I meet a lot of friends. My best friends always say, I've never met a stranger, right? And I don't believe that's being fake, but I think you should be friendly with everybody. But to use the term friendship is a very, very heavy word, right? Sometimes we call people, I know I do, I call people friend in a very sort of social manner. But when I talk about real, true friendship, I'm talking about people that add value to my life. And so, as part of that process, before we can do that, we've got to make sure we discern if friendships are worth investing our time and energy into. In this world that we live in, a lot of times people think, friendship is about people liking the same things or people having the same interests, right? I've even seen people who make trauma bonds, right? Trauma bonding meaning that, let's say, for instance, two people have gotten together because they hate the same person, or they became friends because they both hate their job, or they became friends because they're both in horrible relationships. That is not the foundation of a true friendship. The foundations of true friendship are shared values, trust, mutual support. Those are the things that help us to be able to substantiate and foster healthy and fulfilling friendships. I have two best friends. One has been my best friend since college. We met my senior year. My other best friend, we've been friends for about 12 years. We met by happenstance, and I have a few other girlfriends who I'm really, really close to. But in all honesty, my friendship circle is pretty small. Now I know a lot of people, right? But not everybody knows me. I like to think of myself as being popularly unpopular, right? Because people will tell you they know me, but they don't really know me, right? And that's quite all right with me, because I understand that not everybody can enter into my secret place, right? A lot of times we're so willing to open ourselves up to people simply because we want company. And one thing that I've learned in my 48 plus years, I just turned 48 the other day, by the way, right? One thing that I've learned in my 48 plus years is, number one, longevity does not a friendship make, meaning that just because I've known somebody forever doesn't mean they're my friend. Number two, just because somebody may have the same interests and abilities that I have, that does not mean they're my friend. And number three, I cannot let loneliness or the absence of people force me into a relationship, especially friendships, right? Because sometimes what happens is, and this is, I really want you to think about this and marinate on this, right? Sometimes God has to isolate us so that he can insulate us. Sometimes your loneliness is not always because you can't find friends. Your rejection is God's protection. I know you heard that before, but you really need to understand that. Your not having friends is sometimes God continuing to keep you in a cocoon because he wants you to develop into the best version of yourself without being contaminated by the thoughts and opinions of other people. And so I think that you really, really have to be prayerful and watchful when you're getting into relationships with other people, be they platonic or romantic. You need to really, really look closely at the people you're allowing into your inner space. because in this journey of life, one thing I think about quite often is the fact that life is very, very short. When we're young, it feels like we're going to be young forever. It feels like we're going to live forever. But when I turned 48 the other day, I thought to myself, Carol, you're a lot closer than retirement than you are to starting, right? And for me, it feels like I was just 18 not that long ago. But it was actually 30 years ago. What's my point? My point is that life is extremely short, and it is too short for us to be involved in toxic friendships. It's too short for us to be involved in meaningless relationships. It is too short for us to spend time or waste time in one-sided relationships where we start hanging with people or communicating with people who add no value to our lives. And that may even apply to family members. Because a lot of us, sometimes we think that blood means that we have to bond. Well, you know what? I've gotten friends that are closer and better to me than family members. It's the truth anyhow. And so I consider them closer because they're the people who support me, the people who are concerned about me, the people that check on me, the people that don't gossip about me, right? And so I think these are things that we really, really have to think about, that as we bloom, sis, as we bloom into these women of God that God is calling for us to be, we need to make sure that we have flourishing, genuine connections that are established and based in love and support. And so, sis, as you go through this journaling process, remember that blooming is not just about your outside, but it is more so about your inside and the development of who you are, right? And that leads us into our next topic, identity. So, sis, go ahead and bloom.